Hi. If anyone is there right now, I'm not starting early, but I've gone live early because I posted last night on my Facebook page this chart. Get this chart and either print it out or use two devices if you have like a phone and a pad. You won't really need to see me, so you can just listen to this, listen to me speak, and then look at this while we're doing this. I'll re-explain this in a moment. I'll be right back. If there was any, it's a 3 to 5 day max per day. Can you lock the door? Hi. So for all of you who are online early, I've purposely started this early. I want you to get this chart, and the reason I'm not showing it to you on screen for the full duration of this session is because it's backwards to you. But last night I posted on my Facebook page this chart. It's called the Map of Consciousness. Grab that. Even if you have to go offline right now to get into another tab in Facebook, do that. Get this, print it out, or what some people are going to do is they're going to use two devices. So they'll use, let's say, their pad for this chart and another device to listen to me. You can use one device just as long as you can bring up two tabs. And because you don't need to see me, because I'm going to be referring to this chart quite a bit. So I think you got that. Get a printout or bring it up on a device. So I am going to explain this once again in case there's anybody new on the call. Last night I posted on my Facebook page this chart. It's called the Map of Consciousness. If you can go right now and get it, you can click on it and it'll expand. You should be able to do that while you're listening without dropping this link, because you're going to want to refer to this map of consciousness as I talk about it. If that's not doable, then drop off the link right now. Go to drop off this live cam right now. Go to that and print it out, or get a second device and go to this preferably on a larger device. If you have a pad, like an iPad, you can pull up the map of consciousness on the iPad and listen to what I'm talking about on your phone. Doesn't have to be an iPad. We have 2 more minutes. You got the big picture? Pun intended. Good morning, everybody. This is the Sunday morning meditation class. I am Michael. I'll say it one more time in case you just signed in. Last night I posted this on my Facebook page. It's the Map of Consciousness. You're seeing it backwards, so it makes no sense to you, which is why I posted it. Go grab that. You should be able to continue to listen to me as you leave the video portion of this. But if not, get that map of consciousness. Click on it, and then it should expand. If you can print it out, print it out. If not, just look at that while listening to me. If that doesn't work, then get a second device if you have one. Pull it up on the larger of the 2 devices, the map of consciousness that is, and then listen to me on your smaller device. Okay, we're going to begin. A little background on this map of consciousness. Probably around 1985, I think it was, Dr. David Hawkins created what we now know of as the map of consciousness. And what he did, his purpose initially was to put a number next to every known emotion. And we don't have every emotion on this chart, but we have some really emotions that you certainly have heard and have, if not felt, you certainly understand. And the reason he wanted to quantify it is because he, being a medical doctor and a psychiatrist and a scientist, and he's a quantum physicist, knew that scientists, any scientist, whether you're a medical doctor or not, you're in the field of science, they don't believe anything unless it's quantifiable. So even though they were human beings, and many of them were married and because they fell in love and they found their partner, they couldn't prove that love existed, okay? Or that even though they felt fear, they couldn't prove fear existed. Well, now there's a number. So now they can say, oh yeah, it exists, okay? Us lay people knew that all along, okay? We didn't need a number. But it's very, very interesting to take a look at this map of consciousness. What I'm going to do is I'm going to relate it, hopefully related to you, to your life. So take a look at the very bottom row. The very bottom row is death, okay? There's a 0 value associated with that state of being. I'm going to have to explain a couple of things before I can get into the meat of this. So all that column with all the numbers, you see on top the title is log. That's short for algorithm. Now I need to explain something. So go back down to death where it's 0, and the next one above that is shame at a level of 20. That's 10 to the 20th power. It's not just 20 points greater than death. It's 10 to the 20 greater than death. Now, just so you know, the average person on this planet grows 5 points. In other words, 10 to the 5th per lifetime. If you happen to be into meditation and into things that bring you within, you're going to grow more. Okay, but the average person out there, and according to some studies that have been done, the average person is 76% of the population of the planet. So most of the people on the planet grow just 5 points in a lifetime. Okay? To the right of that column, to the right of the number column, you see, if you see this at all, if you have this in your hand, upward attractor field and downward attractor fields. Okay? And there's a thick line going horizontally, and it's at the level of courage, a number of 200. That is actually the level of integrity. And if you're below that line, you're non-integrous. So Dr. David Hawkins, when he was alive, calibrated the integrity of all the major corporations in the world. And he found out that most of them calibrate at 199. Isn't that interesting? They're so close to the truth that when they advertise on TV or radio or whatever media, you believe it. Because they're so close to the truth. And you end up buying their product. Now, the pharmaceutical companies aren't even close to 199. They're way lower because they actually lie within a single commercial. They actually are non-integrous. But I'm not here to talk about that. That's just an example. So, going way back down to the bottom, above the last line is shame, the level of shame. If you ever feel ashamed, you are resonating at such a low level. And I remember growing up, that was one of my mother's favorite expressions. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. And I thought I should be because I was young and she told me. Okay? Or if you were a certain religion, you were told you were not worthy. All of that is below that thick horizontal line. Okay, the level of integrity. If you ever feel guilt, you're at such a low state of feeling, right? So if you feel guilty about anything, like you ask somebody to do something that you could have done and you actually allow yourself to feel guilt because you're so adept at feeling guilt because that's what you were taught, then I'm going to say you have to change your mind. I have taught over the years that there's 8 words to get rid of. Right, wrong, good, bad, because those 4 words are very judgmental. And I've replaced right and good with the word balance, and wrong and bad with the word unbalanced. And if you try that, you'll find it's challenging to do that, number 1. And number 2, you don't have the judgmental attitude that you have when you use right and wrong, good and bad. Okay? The other words I've suggested people get rid of are shame, blame, guilt, and fault. Well, it's your fault. No, it's your responsibility. It's not your fault. Because when you say, well, it's your fault in that way, then you're casting blame and you're telling the person without saying it, you should be ashamed. It's not a really healthy thing to think about yourself or to confer onto somebody else, okay? I'm slowly going up the levels here. There's a lot more I could talk about, okay? If you've ever lost a loved one, many of us feel grief, okay? And you know how lousy that feels. Or if you've ever been dating someone, decades ago, and that person broke up with you, you're grieving. If you are at the level of fear, that's actually a step up. So if you know anyone in your life who's at the level of anger, which is 2 steps up, they are way better off than someone who lives in fear. Someone who lives in fear is paralyzed. They are afraid to get angry, let alone do anything else. They're afraid. Okay? So if you know someone who's gone from fear to anger, you should be patting that person on the back. As opposed to saying, you got to change your attitude. You're angry all the time. You have no idea where that person came from unless you do. And you know they went from fear to anger. And like I said, pat them on the back. But most of us don't know. Heck, most of us don't know ourselves, let alone being able to judge somebody else. So we really should be using words that are uplifting and what's the word I want to use? Accentuating the positive. Okay? Like we do with children. Now, take a look at pride. Pride to me is very interesting because pride is what the U.S. Armed Forces, in all their commercials, that's their marketing level. They appeal to your sense of pride. Now notice it's below the line. It's at 175. Okay, it's not at the level of 200. But the U.S. military, as much as I am not for conflict and all that stuff, the U.S. military is really good at something. And they can bring somebody from 175 all the way into the 400s, which is incredible. Now, unfortunately, their vehicle is what it is. It's war, it's defense, it's protection, all that kind of stuff. But they have a tremendous plan. So you've all heard of boot camp, right? Boot camp is great because they're trying to knock you down. Well, what's the you that they're trying to knock down? They're trying to knock your pride right out of you. You're trying to knock your ego right down to the ground because they don't want you to operate from ego. They want you to operate from a higher level, which is spirit. Now, they don't call it that. But they were trying to get you up, 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 and they're very good at doing it. They're very good at doing it. Once you get to the level of 200, and again, according to Dr. Hawkins' studies, 76% of the world's population is below 200. 24% of the world's population is above 200. But look at the log, look at the number associated with as you go up higher. Anything above that thick line. As you go up higher, those numbers obviously are advancing. They're getting higher. They're getting more powerful. Whereas below that line, it's force. Above the line, it becomes power and greater levels of power. So even though only 24% of the world's population is above the level of 200, and this is data that's 9 years old. Okay, I don't know what it is currently. We got as high as a planet, the planetary consciousness got as high as 206. And that occurred in 1986, and it went right through into 2010. Okay? The last I heard in 2011, it was 204. Now, how can that be? Even though there's a smaller number of people who resonate at a higher level, that higher level is so much more powerful than the larger group or body of people. You understand what I just said? 24% of the world's population pull up the bar, move the bar up to 204, to above integrity, even though there's 76% of the world's population who are below it. All right? So let's start moving up, because this is going to apply to you. As you move through neutrality and willingness and acceptance, and you get into reason. Now, the United States as a country calibrates at 421. We are all about logic and reason and using our head, okay? That's a better level than being lower than that, but it's not where it's at. So the United States is at 421. Canada is at 426. That 5-point difference keeps Canada out of wars. The U.S. loves to enter into conflict. Canada does not. And the only reason Canada ever gets pulled in, and by the way, this is the only reason, is because they are our largest trading partner, and we apply political pressure. Otherwise, they don't want to enter conflict. We do. That 5 points makes a huge, huge difference. As you move up the scale, right above reason is love. Love is at the level of 500. This is when you start thinking from here, the heart center, and stop thinking from here. Okay? This is when this heart becomes employed, turned on, and coherent, and you then affect the brain in the head. So the brain in the heart affects the brain in the head. So, where are we going with this? Someone comes up to you and says, hey, my husband or my wife or my child or mom or whatever is sick, is in the hospital. I need you to say a prayer. Well, if you're in a lousy mood, you're below the line, I would suggest you don't say a prayer. Not right at that moment. You gotta bounce yourself up. And we know that even temporarily, if you bring yourself to a higher level of consciousness, a higher state of mind, a coherent heart, that's when you start to generate energy that is positively affecting, we call it an upward attractor field, others. So when you are asked to help out, no matter what the situation, we got a really good one going on around the planet right now. If you're coming from a point of fear, I know people who love to be in fear. I know people who love to hate. But there are people whose first response is not a response, it's a reaction. Their first reaction is fearful, and then they operate from there, thinking they're doing this because they love their children, or they love this person, or they love that, but they're operating in fear within themselves, and that's not helpful at all. Okay? You cannot give me $1 million if you do not have $1 million. You cannot give me health or teach me anything about health if you're unhealthy all the time. You cannot help me if you don't have the information or the level of consciousness that's going to lift me up. You're going to bring me right down with you, wherever you are, if you're below that thick horizontal line. So when you're asked to help out, or you're now about to go into meditation, which you're going to be doing in the next, whenever I get to it, next while, you got to jack yourself up. Well, that's what I'm trying to do. That's why I'm meditating. I'm lousy at getting myself up. That's the practice for you then. You got to train yourself. You got to teach yourself. You got to read whatever you can. You got to listen to this kind of stuff to get yourself up just like that. You got to be able to bounce. You know you've been able to drop just like that. So let's turn all that around and pop upwards. It feels better. It feels better to us inside. And then when we're there and then we start to shoot that energy outwardly, that feels even way more better. It's a high, okay? You're giving yourself a high and you're sending that out. And yes, we have equipment that can measure that, and it can measure 3 different people, as a matter of fact, groups of people. The people who are sending the energy out, they can measure that the energy within those people is higher. The people who are receiving the energy, they can actually measure that. And the people who are witnessing this, they're just like bystanders, their energy pops. Okay? So this is a win-win-win situation when you bring yourself up high. So sometimes you'll hear me when I'm talking to feel joy, not just happiness. Okay? Happy is way better than sad, but joy, heck, you're up at 540. You're up in unconditional love. Okay? A dog wagging its tail and a cat meowing is unconditional love. Okay? They're in a state that we wish we could be in most of the time. Some of you have, if you switch over to that, the emotion column, you'll sometimes hear me use the word ineffableness. Okay? It's almost at the very top. Ineffable is a state of being that's so high it's beyond joy. It's beyond bliss. Okay? It equates with peace and even above. It's a high level of peace. So yeah, that's what you want to strive for. Okay? So let's do that. I'll talk you through some of this. Then you're on your own. And every now and again I may speak up, but it's not going to be continual. Do get yourself comfortable so that you can sustain whatever position you're in without having to move and therefore break your focus. Wherever you are, sit up tall. If you have to lay down, that's fine, but your job is to stay awake. Close your eyes. And I want you to immediately begin to breathe in and out of your heart center. And to do that, feel the heart. Feel the heart area. Begin to slow your breath down. Deepen your breath. Continue to focus in right at the heart center. Imagine, if you will, that the heart is inhaling and exhaling. As you continue to breathe in and out of your heart, feel a feeling that's elevated. Something perhaps that makes you laugh, makes you smile, makes you feel really, really happy, if not joyful. When you you start feeling that feeling, your job, your responsibility is actually to feel it throughout the body, feeling it viscerally, as we say. Let it shake you. Let it send a chill through you. Allow tingles to be felt. So you have that spine tingling sensation. It matters not what you feel, as long as you feel, and it's uplifted. Your breath is continuous. Inhaling into the heart, exhaling out of the heart. Inhaling, exhaling. Maintaining your focus while feeling uplifted. That's all you're doing for right now. Stay there. Feel that heart. Breathe in and out of it. Once you attain that elevated emotion, with your eyes closed and in your mind's eye, imagine you present yourself in front of someone you know, unaware to them. This is all energetically. You're standing before that person. You're feeling awesome. Your state of being is so up there that you want to give away that which you have and share it. So you're going to take your energetic arms and you're going to wrap them around that person. Without even touching, you're just creating a circle, enveloping him or her. And you're just standing there with those long, long arms wrapped around, radiating to that person. Speaking silently, yet clearly, letting that person know that you love him or her, that all is okay now. That you are always there for them. And life is getting better and better and better by the moment. It cannot not improve because you are giving, expanding, and that person is feeling exactly what you're sending out. And while you are doing this, just know that this is working. This is already done. And you are the vehicle do is turn it on. Get out of the way and let it go. Bathe that person in these uplifted feelings. Let them know that not only you, but many others love and support them. Help that person to see exactly what you see. Feel. Keep going. Now, bring yourself back to where you are seated. Bring your hands right to your heart. One palm on the chest, the other palm on the other hand. Now, since this is more challenging for many of you to do this for yourself, or to yourself, imagine you're sending through those same arms, both energetically and now physically, that radiating, uplifting energy. And this time, it's coming into you. That's your intention, and that's where your hands are. Send that beam of light from the heart outwardly, as though you were another person. If you're okay with you being you, that's great. As you radiate it from the heart, it travels up. And as it travels up, it goes out the arms, to the hands, and right back into you. And you become self-sustaining. In alliance with that which is in and around you, the divine, you are pure power, pure love, pure light. You become, and therefore you are, the light of the world. When you can say to yourself, crossing religious boundaries, your own, I am the resurrection and the life. Good place to be. Perhaps a quantum jump for many. Bring your awareness back to the heart. Breathe in and out of that heart center. Feel that physical being sitting there, heart open, becoming aware of your presence in the room. smile still on your face. When we finish here today, do not come down from this high. Stay elevated, stay uplifted. Go to someone else and hug them. And if that's not possible, pick up your cat or dog. Now take your palms and bring them together and start to rub them, creating some heat. And then, with the eyes remaining closed, place the palms over your eyes. Slowly opening your eyes, slowly removing your hands, till you come to Anjali Mudra. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. It's beautiful out there if you haven't been out there. I've already done my 55-mile walk. Bye-bye.